Composition is definitely a skill I need to play around with more in my work. So about a week ago, when I was working down at the aquarium during that last vlog that I did while I was in the rain, I mentioned that I had to go into a performance review meeting with my boss and another higher up guy in marketing down there at the aquarium. Everything was pretty good. They loved my work. They loved the pictures. They loved the colors. They loved everything about them. They said there's nothing really here that need to improve. Maybe a couple things you need to tweak here and there. And my boss suggested that I mess around with composition in my photographs a little bit more. So composition is essentially the way that things are arranged or set up in the frame of the image. And basically, composition follows a few different rules, one of them being the rule of thirds, the other being leading lines. Now, composition isn't necessarily a rule. It's more so, I guess, a guideline. It's more so a way for you to spice up your photography rather than just keeping it all in one way all the time. And that's definitely something that I've been trying to look at more with my own work in photo and even in video. Now, there's one thing that I've noticed about my photographs is that practically all of my photographs are composed the exact same way. The subject or whatever is the focus of the shot is normally in the middle. Everything has perfect symmetry for the most part, but everything is in the middle. And with composition, stuff can be in the middle. That is one form of composition. However, I could move stuff off to the side, put stuff in the corners, put stuff elsewhere in the photograph other than it just being in the center. For some weird reason, all of my photographs seem to be composed right in the middle. Nothing is put off to the left or nothing is put off to the right. Nothing's in the corners. Nothing's really out of the ordinary. Everything is very basic with stuff being in the center. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, I need to get out of that as a photographer. I need to get myself outside of wanting to compose everything in the center and instead play around with that a little bit more, experiment with composition a little bit more. And I figured that today is probably a good day for me to do that. So after the meeting, I took what my boss said and I really started thinking about it. I really started to think of different ways that I could compose my shots. So I brought this little dilemma of mine up to my coworkers after my meeting, and they suggested this fantastic idea of setting up my camera so that when I go to take pictures, the autofocus points, or maybe one point, is selected on one side of the screen instead of it being right in the middle. Now, having my autofocus point right in the middle and only using one autofocus point has really been what I've been doing with photography for pretty much the last couple of months, I think, ever since maybe October. So she suggested that I go ahead and set up my camera and set up an autofocus point so that it is only on one side of the screen rather than it being right in the center, and kind of play around with that a little bit more, but avoid putting my autofocus into the center. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do, while I only have, I guess, a little bit of good light left, I've got about like 2 hours before the sun goes down. I really don't feel like driving anywhere, so I think I'm just going to take a little hike in the backyard here. And I'm going to experiment with what Henley suggested for me to do. And that's basically just taking one autofocus point, keeping it on one side of the screen while avoiding the center, and try to get some photographs and experiment with composition a little bit more. So, let's go give this a shot. So it is raining again, and as you guessed it, I am going to be shooting this portion of the vlog with the GoPro because it's waterproof and the rain won't kill this camera. I also have these two dogs with me. The little raindrop there hanging on the pine needle. That's the shot I want to get right there. Another jackpot. These guys here, I think these guys here are wild daffodils, and they only bloom right at the beginning of spring. Won't have these guys for very much longer because the deer come, they eat these. These are a pretty early sign that spring is here. I'm all done. I cannot feel my thumbs. Let's go back inside. All right, well, I've been back inside for probably about 3 hours now. It didn't take me 3 hours to edit these pictures. I just went through some of them. I just went through them, looked at a few of my favorites, edited those. So now that I'm all finished looking at these pictures, I'm not going to go through each picture individually. Instead, I'm kind of going to go through the whole group of them and really just what I was trying to do here. So in a lot of these pictures, what I was really trying to do was I was trying to keep the subject of my photo not in the center of the frame. Even though this center composition is composition, it's a type of composition, it's what I do too much of. And what I wanted to do with this exercise here was take my subject and move it elsewhere in the frame, whether it was literally all the way down in the corner or off to the side or up top. I tried to do that with these pictures here. So when I was out there taking the pictures, I noticed that it was really difficult for me to keep that autofocus point in one spot the whole time. The original goal of this exercise was to keep my autofocus point on one side and one side only for as long as I was doing the shoot. So I really wanted to keep it on the right side. That didn't exactly work because I found myself moving it kind of all over the frame, which was good, but I wanted to keep it all on one side of the frame. I didn't end up sticking to that rule and it kind of just ended up wherever. I was using my Nifty 50 for this exercise, and when looking at these pictures, I noticed that a lot of them have a shallow depth of field, and that was mostly on purpose because I like that look. I like that shallow depth of field look. For what I do at work, that's great. Having a shallow depth of field is perfect. It's great. It's exactly what we want. For here, it's good as well, but having a shallow depth of field isn't everything. It's good for some photographs, but then it doesn't work for others. For example, if I was out photographing a landscape and I wanted to capture a bigger picture, I probably wouldn't want a shallow depth of field. So in summary, after looking at these, I don't mind that there's a shallow depth of field in a good bit of them, but I kind of do because I want to start working my way out of that. Choosing and setting up my composition a specific way could help me out with that. So changing up depth of field would definitely be something good to do next time. So overall, after doing this exercise, I'm not at all a master in composition. This is the first time I went outside with the idea of switching up my composition in mind. Normally, my idea is just getting the picture, just focusing on the subject. Now I want to start implementing different techniques and different ways to change up my photographs rather than just keeping everything in the center. So I think I'm gonna keep practicing with this exercise of moving my autofocus point away from the center to try and help capture a different moment, to tell a different story, rather than everything just being in the center of the photograph. And this was a lot of fun, actually. This was a great exercise. I didn't have to travel far. I literally just walked outside the house and just walked through the woods a little bit with the dogs. And it was fun. I really enjoyed this. And this definitely isn't going to be the only time that I do this activity. There's definitely going to be more times for me to go out and practice with this stuff more and more, because this is something that I want to get better at. And this is something that I really want to challenge my creativity and challenge my abilities as a photographer. And with that all being said, that is it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.